Okay, so the first item on the work session is the CTC road paving list. This is the proposed list for 2020. In front of you is the 2019 list. I just wanted you all to be able to see that particular list in case you couldn't remember what roads were included in 2019. Those roads have not been paved yet. We are in the process of letting that contract with Satterfield Construction. We got a very good bid from them, and we were able to get. We had actually like a set list, and then we had an alternate list because we weren't sure that we'd have enough money to pave everything. And their bid was such that we were able to get all the roads on our list. The 2020 list that was included in your packet includes about just for knowledge purposes, the way this works is that the public works director will put together a list, and he will do a cost estimate on what he thinks these roads will cost. We don't know the true cost until the bid comes in. Once we know a cost estimate, we will then put forward a list to City Council, and then once you all are comfortable with the list, we take that list to the CTC, and then they allocate money. So there's no guarantee that every road on this list will get picked up, but this is the road that we are proposing as a staff that we submit to the CTC. These are all grade 4 roads. The mayor actually called me earlier today and said, well, do we have any roads that are worse than grade 4? And the answer is no. We had some 6s and some 5s, and we were able to pick all of those up with the 2019 contract. So the worst roads in the city are considered grade 4s, and all of the roads on this list are 4s. I'll give you guys a minute, and then if you have any questions, let me know.
Not being in any specific board, if anybody has any interest in me coming to take a look at any of these, y'all let me know. I'm not, other than grade 4s, I don't know what the priority of these are.
So, okay, I'll explain that, but if y'all would, just make sure that you're talking pretty closely into that mic. We bought a new system in here to make it the sound to project better. It's going to be a really good, versatile system for us. So everybody gets their own mic if you'll just talk pretty closely to it. The logic behind the order of the roads is this. It's very technical, I'll just tell you. In the 2019 list, Ward 4 had the majority of the roads. Ward 5 had 3 roads, Ward 2 had 2 roads, Wards 1 and 6 had 1 road, and Ward 3 did not get any roads. So since all of these are a grade 4, I just took the liberty to sort them by ward. I put the Ward 3 roads at the top since they didn't get any roads in the 2019 list, and then I just went from there. So the Ward 4 roads are at the bottom, so if we don't get all the roads, Ward 4 would be sort of left out. Sorry, Mr. Bass. Does that make sense?
Are you talking about the 2020 or the 2019?
2020.
What about the road we just recently took ownership of?
That's on the list.
Okay.
So the roads on 2019 list, they're not completed?
No, ma'am. We are in the process of awarding that contract to Satterfield now.
But these are the ones that will be repaired?
Yes,
Ones on
ma'am.
this list.
That's correct. All those roads will be included in their contract with Satterfield, and then these roads here on the 2020 list will be bid out probably sometime towards the end of 2020.
So we know all these roads or streets will not be repaired on the 2020 list?
We don't know that for sure because we don't know how much funding we'll get from CTC, and we also don't know how Satterfield, or typically Satterfield is the only one who submits bids for the city, but we don't know how the bids will come in. So it's only a projection at this point until we know. You know, this list may have $700,000 worth of roads on it, Ms. Bowles, and that's just a projection. With CTC may give us $300,000, which would then require us to shorten this list significantly.
But just for if you could remind me, if we don't get reached by CTC with the CTC money, do we have any options for any of those roads?
I don't believe we have a small asphalt account, but it's typically used for patching potholes and things like that. It's not going to significantly repair any roads.
I just didn't know if there was any other sources that we looked to?
Not to my knowledge. We. Ms. Dorn
Sorry,
was
you
just
had a
saying that.
mask on.
Ms. Dorn was just saying that potentially we could use 50% money in hospitality tax, but that would be a small pot of money that's limited. Since I've been with the city, we have not received CTC money, and this year, 2019 was probably the largest allocation we've gotten in the last 10 years, I would say.
I guess, and I mean, I understand that we receive it every year. Do we always get what we ask for from CTC, or is?
So it's hard to explain the process if you haven't actually been in the room. And so we changed it up a little bit this year with some advice from Rob Russian at the county about the way that the county presents their roads. So they present a very lengthy list, which is why this list has so many roads on it. Like, for example, this might be $700,000 worth of roads. But if we don't have roads in the queue, they're not going to fund us above what we asked for. So in the past, we've gone in there and specifically said, okay, well, we think these roads are going to cost $245,000, and we would like $245,000. Last year, we went to them with a more exhaustive list and said, you know, we have about $650,000 worth of roads we would like to pave, and we're requesting that you fund us to the level that you can. And we received $435,000. So we were able to get a lot more roads. So it's just a process. And it depends on how much they have to allocate, which varies from year to year as well.
Do y'all mind letting me know when the CTC meets this month? I just want to go so that I do understand the process.
I believe they meet on the second Thursday of the month. Of course, the last meeting was supposed to be on April the 9th, which they did not meet. So I believe their next meeting may be something like May the 14th or whatever that second Thursday is of the month. But I don't know if they'll meet or not.
Once again, all I have to say about it, for sure, do have bad roads and streets. You seem to outnumber any other ward.
Well, remember, too, that some of those roads are state roads, and the CTC money that the city applies for is for city-owned roads.
Some of these roads are state roads.
Nothing on the list that I have presented to you are state roads. I'm saying some of those roads that you're saying are in really bad shape may be state roads.
Like, I believe Laurel is a state road,
Yes.
and it's in terrible shape, but yeah, I mean, that's the one that kind of stands out to me.
Gray Street. I mean, there's a lot of roads. I
They've been
agree with you.
patched and all that, but,
There's still a lot of roads in Ward
Right.
4 on this list. And last year as well. Just saying.
and Brooke Stewart, that's on this list, Brooke Stewart Drive, that includes that neighborhood, is that correct? Are you familiar with that, Coleman Terrace?
I'm looking for it. What other roads are in that neighborhood? Do you know?
Like, it's a circle,
Okay, so it includes the street and the circle.
okay.
I'm not familiar with that right off the top of my head, though, no.
It's housing authority neighborhood, and I just didn't know that we would own that development road, but that is the circle.
Okay, yeah, it's on the list. Does anybody else have any other questions about the CTC list? I know this is usually a pretty heavily debated topic, so y'all can always call me prior to the next meeting as well, but we'll put this on your agenda. All right. All right, I'm going to have Mr. Thomas cover this next item.
So the owners of Birch Tree Storage, that's currently located at 212 Birch Tree Drive, submitted a petition to annex the abutting parcel. It's 214 Birch Tree Drive. The immediate reason their motivation for doing so was wanting to install a new sign. They felt that the best location for the sign would be on the parcel of 214. So they submitted a request to have the sign approved, found out that the sign has to be located on the same property for the business for which it's advertising. So that led them to submit the petition to annex 214. So 212 is currently located in the city. The property right next to it is located in the county. So I don't know, that's pretty small. You guys probably can't see that, but the bigger property that's outlined there is 212, where the storage facility is. Smaller property outlined in orange is the property they're looking to annex. So the goal would be to annex the property as general commercial, which is what the storage facility is currently zoned as well. As you can see, a lot of the property around there is currently sitting in the county as well. Everything in red. There's a view or a kind of a mock-up of the sign that they want to install and their current sign as well. So really the ultimate motivation for them is to get the sign installed immediately once the annexation takes place. And I think they also mentioned that they would be interested at some point in the future in extending the storage facility onto the annexed parcel as well.
So do they then have to combine the tax map numbers to
Correct.
make it one,
Yes, ma'am.
one parcel then?
Yes, ma'am.
Because it has to be the same parcel, so there'll
Right.
be one tax, and so then will all the property they own be in the city, or, yes?
Right. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I missed that part. They need to combine it prior to installing the sign.
Prior to installing
Yeah.
the sign, okay.
And so where they look at installing it is
On
along
the vacant,
Birch
on
Tree
the
Drive,
vacant, on the
right there
vacant
in
piece?
the corner.
Yeah, okay, I got you.
Phil, I have a question. Won't this make this parcel larger than 1 acre?
Right now, the new grounds is
So that exceeds coding restrictions already, is that right? Okay.
but if they do, it could be just an extension of the road race to make that portion of property that's on that piece. You know, ownership and stuff. They have to-
Any questions?
The only reason they're wanting to change it is just so they can put the sign, if they're not planning on putting anything else on the lot, is that right?
Not immediately. They said that they might in the future, but the immediate motivation is just installing a sign in the place that they find most advantageous for the business that would be, you know, the least confusing for passersby.
Any other questions for Ryan? All right. I do not have a slide for this, but I did have a note to you all about the 2019 audit. Stephanie and her staff have been working diligently on the audit. We tentatively have Manley Garvin on the May 18th agenda to come and present the audit to you for acceptance. It's possible that it might have to be moved to the June work session, just depending on some internal things that they're working on. But we just want to bring that to your attention and make sure y'all are aware that we know that's a little bit later than normal, but obviously we're working through the circumstances that we've been dealt. Stephanie, the mayor did ask me a question earlier about the audit committee, so I don't know if you want to address your plans related to use of those folks.
I honestly have not talked to Manley Garvin about the committee recently. We had initially talked about that they needed to meet prior to the issuance of it, but we may just have to kind of turn things around this year. And if everyone wants to meet, I can probably, the easiest thing may be to set up a go-to meeting for that.
And so that's the mayor and Ms. Hutto and Mr. Miller.
I may at least just want a good understanding of it before the audit's presented.
Okay. Do you want that in person, or would you be okay with a go-to meeting?
I'm fine with anything.
What's your preference?
Either or.
Okay, I'll reach out to them tomorrow.
Mr.
and-
I think he may prefer a go-to meeting. Mr. Miller, I don't know if you can hear Stephanie about scheduling a audit committee meeting with Manley Garvin.
Yes. Yeah, I would prefer GoToMeeting, but I guess it just depends on when it is. If it's during the day, that would be better for me.
Well, we can do the same thing we're doing here. If we need to, we can do part in person and part GoToMeeting, either way.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll reach out to them tomorrow and get everybody, if y'all just check your email tomorrow.
But Matt's point is the fact that he can do it after hours, he can't do it during business hours.
Right.
Okay.
Is that right, Mr. Miller?
What was that? Sorry, I missed it.
Ms. Hutto was asking, could you do it during work hours, or do you have to do it after a certain time?
I mean, after 4 o'clock would be best, but I
Okay.
can do it during the day if I need to.
Yeah.
Okay. I think Stephanie will work to set it up for after 4 o'clock.
Okay.
And in case you can't hear, because I don't know what you can hear and what you can't, she says check your city email. She's going to try to put it together tomorrow with not the meeting itself, but information about the meeting. Okay, so the next item is a vacancy on the Accommodations Tax Committee. We've talked about this previously, and I think Ms. Hutto had somebody she thought might want to serve. I would like to get Mr. Lagan replaced by June so that we can be prepared by, I mean, we can go a little later than that, but my preference will be to have somebody in place in June so that when we get ready to send those packets out in August, that person's ready to roll. So if anybody knows of somebody in the arts community or in the lodging community, Mr. Lagan was from the arts community, so I think it would be beneficial to have someone similar to replace him. So if you have any names you want to put forward, you can email those to me. Ryan has been keeping sort of a running list of individuals that are interested in just serving generally on committees, but obviously this one's a little bit specific because it's related to accommodations tax, so the preference will be somebody from the cultural arts community. So if you know someone, please let us know.
They need to live in the city.
I don't believe they're required to live in the city. I mean, I think that's always a preference of city council is to select people that live in the city, but it's not a requirement.
Yeah, George did not live in the city. Not.
All right. For this next item, I'm going to have James Bateman with the Partnership Alliance come up to talk with you guys. James, if you want to come on up. Essentially what this is related to is the marketing of the Kitson Mill site. If you all recall, City Council set a sale price, and in the process of staff putting together marketing materials, the partnership approached us about the possibility of working together to promote the site, and so we have an agreement that we would like to enter into with the Partnership Alliance, and so I'd like to place this on the agenda for May 18th for you all to authorize the city manager to enter the agreement. So I want to let James kind of cover what the agreement means.
We are, as Julie mentioned, we've been in close contact with the city staff over several years on marketing of the Kitson Mill site. This is really more of a matter of formality in our eyes. We have a form option agreement, marketing right option agreement that's in place on most all of our other sites throughout the county. Most of them being industrial. Julie and I trip back and forth a little on what was applicable here and what was not for this particular site. This would allow us to confidently market the site with a set. I was loud to myself. Thank you. Purpose of the agreement allows the partnership the right to actively market the site. Not that we're not already doing that. Again, just formalizes the arrangement. Gives us a framework for confidently marketing the property at a set price. We know that the city has set a price for it. Again, this puts it in writing for us and in a standard agreement that we have on other sites. I'll tell you that most site consultants and developers require some sort of documentation to begin the conversation about this. This would give us that. It's a marketing agreement. As it is written, technically it gives the partnership the option to purchase the property, the wording in the document. I'll tell you a much more likely scenario in the unfortunate circumstance that it's not sold in 5 years, which would ultimately be our goal. Before we get to that point, the partnership would more than likely request a renewal of the agreement, just renew another 5-year agreement. That's what we've done on other sites. Didn't want to get hung up on that. Allows the partnership to make improvements to the site or conduct due diligence on the site with the written consent of the city. If there's something that needs to be done to improve the marketability or feasibility of the site, of course, we would stay in contact with the city on any such matters. Again, does not prevent the city from leasing or selling the property to a buyer that perhaps the city has initiated conversations with. We have been in touch with the city on any prospective buyers that we are bringing to look at the site, and likewise the city with us. So we're already working together in this fashion, really, and would formalize this arrangement. It also allows us to put it on the state's buildings and sites database, www.locatesc.com, and without a written agreement on price, we can't list a site on the state's database. It is their requirement. What I missed here?
Yeah, I think like James is saying, it's almost a formality. The partnership's been working with us for years on trying to market that site, and they come to us a lot with thoughts on, how to make that site more attractive. Obviously, none of the city staff here are real estate agents, and so I think they have a track record of recruitment, and I personally feel this is the best path for making that site something better than what it is right now. And we've had conversations with them as well about trying to market that more as a district, so they have the option to expand out maybe to other property owners in that area and say, are y'all interested in letting us market your site as well as more of a district? I mean, our site is a little shy of 7 acres, but there's a lot of property over there, and we feel like it's just begging for the right development.
Did you have a question? Okay. Just wanted to be sure. I think that the partnership and the city are in alignment on what type of development you would like to see there. So this is not some attempt to have a different type of development there. I think that we're in alignment on that. We are working with some interested developers currently, checking with them on their plans, how their timeline may have been impacted by everything that's happened over the last month or so. We'll continue to work with them, and as Julie mentioned, our plans to market this as bigger plans to market it as a district as opposed to just the 7-acre site. Also have been working with the private landowners adjacent to the city's property for the parcels that are bound by Kitson Street and Maxwell Avenue, at least that corner, which has been subject to some feasibility studies from some of your planning groups and a part of the city center master plan update as well. Happy to answer any questions now or any that arise in between now and the May meeting. And I know that we will have a final draft of that option that Mr. Padgett has reviewed and commented on to give forward.
Will we be able to continue to use the studies that we did previously in marketing this property?
Yeah, I mean, any of that material is only going to enhance what James and the partnership are able to do. I mean, we have the study from, what was the company that did that study? Kimley Horn?
It's been a couple.
At any rate, we have some renderings on, and we have some statistics on best use of that property. And also, as James mentioned, as part of the city center master plan, that contract included 3 parcels outside of the uptown that we could select. And so we selected Kitson Mill as one of the parcels that they're going to provide a conceptual plan for. So that will be, if you can go to a developer and say, well, look at this conceptual plan that the city's already put together, that's only going to help the marketing of that property. There's no cost to the city. I feel like somebody might ask that.
I I was going to make that my
Yes.
final comment, is that the partnership is not licensed realtors. We do not represent such, do not make any commissions on the sales of property, nothing of that sort. Nothing in it for the partnership other than greater good for the community, and formalizing our arrangement to help market the site, serve the city.
And again, I'll reiterate that we talk with Heather and James regularly about the Kitson site, and they really want to see that site developed in the same way that the city does, because you know, what's good for them is good for us, is good for the county and the region. So if y'all have any additional questions about that, I can answer them. Mr. Paget has reviewed the agreement. He can answer any questions about that. Again, I'll have a formal draft of that in your packet before the May 18th meeting.
Any other questions for Jenny? Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, Jake.
Appreciate it. Cheers.
Thank you, James. So I know that I had mentioned that the Planning Commission would not be having their, that we wouldn't have any Planning Commission items on our agenda. However, Phil has let us know earlier today that the Planning Commission will be meeting on May the 13th, and they would like for us to give first reading, not public hearing. We'll have public hearing on second reading, which is a little bit opposite of how we normally do it. But we'll have first reading on the 18th. So Phil has 3 rezoning requests that he wants to cover for you guys tonight.
Thank you. We have 3 items that have been pending since March. Planning Commission meeting in March was canceled. The April meeting for the Planning Commission was canceled, so they have set up a special meeting next Wednesday, the 13th, to go over 3 items in the city. The first one is David Little of Baptist Association. It's 2.5 acres just south of Emerald High School. The Baptist Church is there on the very top, and then there's an underground storage area to the south. This property lies in between there. What they would like to do is change the zone from residential R1 to office professional in order to have their office. There's been a recommendation from the Planning Commission. I would be surprised if they didn't. Okay. The next one is one you may be familiar with, Maryland Park Paving. This is 0.27 acres at the corner of Grace and First Avenue. They recently rezoned that last year.
Yep.
From neighborhood commercial, I believe, to residential. It is now R4. They intended to sell it because they said they had someone who wanted to utilize it for housing, for student housing. They now want to sell it to someone else. I guess something fell through with that, and now they want to make it office professional. We would recommend approval of office professional because it allows for single-family residential as well as offices, so they won't have to come back and forth each time they have a potential buyer on the property. So if you were to rezone it to office professional, the issue goes away. As long as they're looking at those 2 uses, it won't have to come back.
Why wouldn't they have just opted for office professional before?
I think they just want to be in compliance with some of the other zones in the area that are for. I think they felt very confident that they would be a residential home.
Because it was a residential.
It was residential.
Yeah.
Had been residential.
But all, the other 3 corners
Commercial.
are commercial, right?
Isn't the one across
Well,
the
off-
street is a house, isn't it? The blue?
Yes, that's right. The catty corner is residential.
But that porch has been repaired. Curious.
I believe it's been repaired, yes, sir.
It has, yeah.
Okay. Is that, I thought that was a question.
No,
Okay.
we talked about it. We talked about it one meeting. I went out there 2 days later and it was repaired. I don't know how that happened.
Let 'em out.
It's that porch that was, yeah, on the yellow house.
Yeah, it was falling in.
The yellow brown
Those
house.
folks have had some trouble with cars running into their yard,
Yep.
too.
The third item is a request by Jack Collins. This is property that's on Emerald Farm Road. It's 19.79 acres. He owns the entire parcel. He is wanting to actually downzone the property from R3 medium density residential to R1.
So he wants to warrant the
He's playing chess. That's what he's doing,
Well,
sort of.
He hasn't said that, I'm just assuming that that's his motivation. Yeah, okay.
what is your staff's recommendation?
We'd be okay with changing it to R1.
So R1 is single-family residential 1-acre lots.
One unit per.
Yeah, that's a lot of, okay.
But once you get past the neighborhood there and go further back, you know, they're very large.
They're very large.
What's that address again?
Yeah, I looked it up on GIS. It doesn't have a specific address, just listed as Emerald Farm Road.
It's probably a little bit, probably saw what happened just down the road from them. With
Absolutely.
the solar farm
Yep.
and the other developments over there. And it's probably just doing what he needed to do to protect his property.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have those 3 rezonings on the May 18th agenda for first reading, but we will not have public hearing until the June meeting. But we're happy that we were able to get those moving because I know they were piling up and
Yes, we appreciate you doing that for us, because had you not done that, they would have second reading at the July meeting, if you know, this is March, so,
Mhm.
just gonna have about that, so. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
okay, I had provided you all with a couple of updates, particularly on the how the city is adjusting and a couple of other things. So, does anybody have any questions for me, or for Ryan, or Stephanie?
Well, from the general public, I got the question, and I'm sure that this is a question maybe that Mr. McKinney can answer. But they were wondering if there is within the county, I don't know, even in the city, a way that people are being asked who have tested positive for COVID-19, who they've been in contact with, so, and doing more like source analysis of the source, you know. You
The
remember?
tracing capabilities.
Yes. And the other thing is, let's see, it might be easier to talk this way. The other thing was I remember one of the first cases that came out, the young lady mentioned that she had been on a cruise. And so basically, again, source, tracing, you know, when there have been other communicable diseases of such, you know, they were asked to have a list of who you were in contact with, that kind of thing, and are those people then being notified? So I got a couple of questions about that kind of protocol in order to get a handle of where these COVID-19 cases are coming from.
Sure, and I'll be happy to talk with Mr. McKinney and try to get a better handle on that. I do know that in previous conversations that we've had about that process, I know that goes through DHEC.
Uh-huh.
They won't provide that information to us locally. So
Okay.
I will see where we are with that
Okay.
process
Thank
and
you.
pass that along to you all. Does anybody have any other questions?
I do have a question about the issue with the sinkhole that you mentioned in your updates.
Yes.
I'm not familiar with the history of that behind that, but if it's a recurring thing,
Mhm.
I would like for us to explore how we can get away from that liability, maybe even purchasing the property or something in the future, because if it's, from what I think I know about it, which is total what I think, not what I know, it seems like this was a very expensive venture in the past, and it could be
Yes, sir.
again. So, just exploring those options. I know you probably were already, but it's something that I think that we should seriously consider.
Certainly, and I know that most on council know the history of this property. I know some do not. It would take me 2 or 3 hours probably to explain it all to you, and I do not mind doing that. I'm just not sure everybody else wants to hear it. But I mean, I'll be more than happy to share the history with you. But I agree that potentially is something that's reoccurring, and so that's kind of where the city is. We're trying to figure out what's the cause and what's the long-term solution so that we don't continue to see these sinkholes. So it's kind of a trial and error process, and that's just kind of where we are right now.
I think it's rather, in terms of diagnosing it, we're looking at experts to get in there and finally give a diagnosis that's, if I'm understanding.
He's correct, and I think the biggest challenge that I have encountered from a staff level is that even the experts aren't sure they know. So it's more of a, let's roll this out, let's roll this out, let's roll this out. Things like that can get rather expensive. And so it's trying to find the best path forward to know that we're going to get to a final solution. Because you hate to spend a bunch of money and then get no resolution at all. And obviously you all know better than anybody that we don't have a bunch of disposable income laying around to try to try to just eliminate possibilities. So
But didn't we purchase that property?
we did not. We did not.
It's something.
I've been reading historically about the property just to understand.
Isn't this
I
a
wasn't
different-
here.
yeah,
It's
but
the
this-
same property.
But it's a different code.
Yes, ma'am.
So
In
it
this,
keep- it moves.
it's in the general area.
Vicinity.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we didn't purchase any of
That
that
house?
property. That was considered, but in the end result was not that we bought the property. The addition was removed and the house remained. We do have where the pipe was installed. It's about 90 feet worth of new storm drain line. The city has a 10-foot easement there to go in and maintain the inside of the pipe, but we don't own anything there.
And the property owner then went and sold that property.
It's changed hands multiple times.
Times.
Yes.
So the person that owns-
My real question, Julie, is that I don't understand why we have liability. It's because I'm new and I've not been through it, but I really can't say I'm new anymore, can I? But I just don't know why, if it's the liability of it, and that's something I would like to understand.
Sure. I'll be happy to
Yeah.
talk with you about it. There's a lot of turns.
I understand.
And it's the way the pipes connect.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's no clear ownership of those lines over there at all.
And I guess that's because I've had to deal with that personally on my property.
Yeah.
And what do we have to do to be able to assign ownership of this? And I know that's probably pie in the sky, and it's there's no way it could happen overnight. But
Sure.
what process do we need to start?
Well, certainly your thought process is where my thought process is, because we don't want to keep coming back to this and coming back to this and coming back to this. And so, like I was saying earlier, what's the long-term solution? What is the long-term solution to say, this is how this is going to work in the future? This is who owns these lines. This is who's liable for these lines. And we have to get to that point so that in 10 years, if another sinkhole shows up, we have a very clear document that says, no, this is how this plays out in the future. So we're far from there right now.
I think you're used to most of the stormwater drains have very clear ownership, obviously. These are a bit of an anomaly.
And I personally had the same problem.
Yeah.
And so, but that's, it's not just me, and it's not just this house. There's other houses, and that's, on Tackett Way, which is in the county, they're redoing, the sidewalks and the storm drains, and where the catch basins are on the side of the roads, they're actually installing those. We have a lot of those in Greenwood that really need to be repaired, specifically on Laurel, and that are, we have a lot of flooding issues just on that road. At Karen Betty, she'll have, but it's because those storm drains are such in disrepair. It's a state road, but it's the city, and we need to do what we can to be able to help them out.
It's a conundrum.
Yeah.
I can't think of a better word than a conundrum.
It's a nightmare.
It's a mess. It is. I've learned a lot in the last, I don't know,
I inherited that on my first.
30 days. Yeah, I saw a lot of references to you, Miss Bowles.
Oh, yeah. We're ready. Went through the ringer on that
I
one.
went through the, yeah, I had a good training. First year on council.
Well, if it hadn't been handled right from the start, we probably could have done owned the property, but we got sold out.
Yeah, it's a lot to do.
Yeah, but we wanted.
Your colleagues have more history than I do because I was not
No, you
here.
wasn't here. We had headaches with that.
But I have read up as much as I can and spoken with our insurance company and the attorney that was involved. And I talked with Charlie a little bit, spoken to Mr. Brown, just trying to get all the history I can. Stephanie has knowledge. She was here when that happened. So, the insurance company did come out on site. I know you guys saw that in my memo, and they are working with the homeowner to pay the claim to stabilize the house. Obviously, knowing what happened last time, we don't want to see anything like that happen again. So the homeowners are in contact directly with our insurance company, and they're handling that piece of it. Does anybody else have any questions? Mr. Miller, do you have any questions?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay, well, I don't have anything else. Anybody else? Nope. Thank you all for your flexibility. I will take a minute to commend the city staff, and I know I've said that to you all multiple times. They're just being very resourceful and resilient, and I get more emails than I can count, and it's because everyone is kind of staying in their lane and figuring out, from my perspective, what do I need to do to help our community move forward. I'll call Laura out since she's in the back of the room. She's been really focused on small business loans and development and how we can help those businesses thrive once we get started. Stephanie has been heavily involved. There's so many funding opportunities coming through, and how you capture those and how they apply to the city and what's the best way to use them. And so I would just say that everyone has been on their game. So I appreciate the support for sure and keeping me in the know. If you guys have any questions about anything that we're doing here, just, call anytime. I know y'all know how to get me or Ryan or Stephanie.
And I'll second that. Thank you, city staff, and glad to see all y'all again in person. Hang in there.
Thank you all very much.